What is up, fight fans? I am Jason Burgos for Sherdog.com, and I'm joined by a 13-fight UFC veteran who will take her number 6 flyweight ranking into UFC 257 and do battle with the number 7 ranked talent Joanne Calderwood. And as the one they call Evil, aka Jessica I, Madam Evil, thank you for the time to talk your Octagon return.
Well, thank you for having me on. You're definitely one of the few people we've actually answered. So I'm sure everyone's definitely feeling like Jessica's not answering our messages for interviews, and I have not. So
well,
being
I'm
a little
thankful.
stingy this time. Yeah.
I'm thankful I was allowed this opportunity. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I have a whole bunch of questions for you. So now, you competed just once in 2020, the first time when healthy that you only got one fight in for a given year. Obviously, this was not a normal year, but what is your personal stance on this situation? Was it frustrating, feeling you maybe wasted a lot of a good prime year? Did it hurt at all financially not to get in those UFC paychecks more frequently that past year? And also, or did it allow you to focus on things you kind of haven't gotten to by being a busy fighter, and there were some positives in it all?
That's a very complex question that you asked. I think that we could just start back with in December when I fought Viviani. And even previously to that, I had already started suffering from some stomach issues that I wasn't really taking care of. But within that time, right after even still Viviani, I had arm surgery. So I ended up having elbow surgery, and then I was out for a couple months. They tried to schedule me versus JoJo in the Columbus card, but I was injured, and then that was around the beginning parts of the quarantine. And then obviously the 2-week notice fight with Cynthia. I think by nature what happened in that time is that I was dealing with a lot of problems. I was dealing with a health issue. I had no idea the severity of it. I think I kept trying to play it off as that, I was just getting older, or these were like new things that were happening. I was a little more stressed out this year by switching teams. Leaving Strong Style was a huge thing in my life. I downplayed so much, but I think by nature, that's what caused some of the issues in my own head and what happened. To leading up to another missed weight cut, probably looking at myself on that video and seeing how terribly sick I was, and nobody offered me any medical attention or advice, or even was like, hey man, just that's not like you, something's kind of wrong. It was shortly after that I went on the search to find out what exactly was going on with me. There was a lot of things: mental confusion, anger, brain fog. I just was hurting all the time. I couldn't lose weight. Any dieting that I did with the PI, anything I did when I hired a new person, nothing was working. And I just seeming how continuously got sicker, but I kept trying to push through it to finally ended up, I lost my gallbladder. My gallbladder was actually at a 9% function, which most people get their removed at about 50% function. Mine was at 9% and fully dying and poisoning me. So it's crazy to think that, which most people were like, oh, I seen someone make a thing about calling it an excuse. I'm sorry, I didn't choose a dead organ in my body. It wasn't an excuse. It was something that happened to me. And I think by nature, the past year, I'm lucky I only fought that one time, because maybe I had fought more, that I would have actually found out, had I had missed weight again, or really started to look at some of these symptoms I was facing and, go and get help. That's why I encourage anybody, if you're sick, go get help. Don't be scared. Don't care what anybody else thinks. If you're not right, it's okay to go get checked out or ask questions. So next time I'll do that with myself. And I would hope that next time the MMA community, instead of assuming that I just didn't care about making weight, that that maybe something was wrong with me. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and I would hope that people would know that I take my career very seriously and I take myself seriously. Unfortunately, I missed that. I missed it.
When did you, get your answers to this issue? How far back does it go that you realize something was wrong? And could we confirm now it isn't a COVID related thing? It's something completely different. It isn't COVID affect your gallbladder. It was beyond that.
No, so well, to come to find out, my whole life I've been allergic to eggs, and eggs are a pinnacle in my diet.
Interesting.
I eat eggs all the time.
I have that from recently too. I've noticed an egg thing for me too.
And now sometimes food sensitivities, which we've learned that now people are taking the food sensitivity test, and over time, when we overindulge in foods in the way that society is now, we end up getting sick. And by nature, when you're a super crazy dieter like myself, I would eat the religiously same kinds of foods. And that's what the whole macro and micronutrients is. Why when you get really mad at these like nutritionists and you see this, that's what it is understanding how to mix up your foods. If not, you'll build up intolerances. But unfortunately, I am allergic to dairy and I am allergic to eggs. The other stuff, I have some insensitivities to some of the other stuff, but that's also because when I was diagnosed, once we got the gallbladder removed, which right around the 4th of July, I was in the hospital. I would have had my first real attempt at post the fight with Cynthia that I couldn't manage it anymore. Like I kept trying to medically help myself, you know what I mean? I was like trying to medically medicate any way that I could to help with some of the pain, and it was not working. So first time I was in the hospital was in July. By the end of it, I think August 15th was my actual removal of the gallbladder. They finally got my full approval. So from July, first week in July until August, I had doctor's appointments after doctor's appointments. And the first things that they were telling me was colon cancer, colitis, Crohn's. You know, the gallbladder was the last thing that we found, and as well as finding out that I struggle, which I had heard it as a kid, but by nature, I think most people don't think about it, but I have irritable bowel syndrome, and it's very much a real thing. So unfortunately, I struggle with IBSD, which is the most embarrassing thing in the world, but I love talking about it because I hope it encourages others.
Yeah.
But so there's foods I cannot eat, like I cannot touch certain things or I will be so sick. It'll send me into overdrive. And it makes sense now because things that are happening to my body now and the way that my body looks now and the way that I feel now, it feels more like familiar times in my life when I maybe wasn't having food reactions or, eating those, kinds of foods. I think when we were younger, our bodies are a little bit more resilient. I'm 34 now, so it's not as much.
So then, was it like an adult onset of an allergy, and like you had never noticed it? Was it just reading the signs the wrong way for a long time? And also, I don't know how the gallbladder affects you in terms of being a top-level professional athlete. From the doctors, what have they said? Are you good to go? Gallbladder is not important in the act, or you have to be very careful without that?
Well, okay, so there's a couple parts to that question. The gallbladder, so let's go to the one about saying what the gallbladder's actual function. There are a couple other UFC fighters who do not have their gallbladder. But yes, it is a completely different filtering system. Your gallbladder filters all of your good and bad fats, as well as soon as you eat a piece of food, anything, water, anything touches your mouth, your body instantly produces bile. Bile starts breaking down foods. If your gallbladder does not digest, if it can't break down the foods or it's not producing bile, the food ferments in your stomach because your body cannot produce or cannot digest it fast enough. Wow. You'll now have a slow drip of constant bile in your stomach at all times now because of your pancreas and your liver and your other filtering systems in your body. So it's completely changed my life. The foods I ate before, I can never eat again. And it's actually made fighting diet way easier. Like when people will get things that like I can't eat, I'm like, well, I can't eat that. So what does it matter anyways? It made me feel bad. And I think by nature for a long time, I was able to avoid some of these allergies because my body was so resilient. But I mean, let's face it, your gallbladder takes years to die to get to that percent, to 9%. To 9%, it takes years. Most people have a functioning gallbladder at about 70%, 70, 80, and most people get it removed if it's anything below that, right? So, like people don't struggle with this kind of thing. So I think my whole life I've been struggling with it, and I always kind of knew, like, I started probably into my early 20s, like I started eating certain things a little less, having certain foods a little less, you know, drinking milk a little less, like, because I had noticed some of it. But to notice now what I notice now is just night and day.
And considering how the body works, just say on an exterior level, you know, you have a knee injury or something, and you walk different and affects other muscles. Is there any concerns, or you have a clean bill of health in terms of that not running at full capacity, not having affected other organs in your system? Is that not an issue too?
Imagine a little bit more important appendix.
Okay.
You know what I
All
mean?
right.
Like, say, imagine having your appendix removed, right? And
Yeah.
how if you keep it in your body, it can kill you, right? It
Yeah.
poisons your body, right? Like, that's what happens. I was fortunate my body wouldn't let my gallbladders burst. The same thing happened. Anything can happen. You could go in a fight and get hit, and something could burst. Your organs
Yeah.
aren't trained to take a
Yeah.
punch. You know what I'm saying? Like, so.
Yeah.
People forget that. So by nature, you know what I mean? Like, I was fortunate enough. I mean, I almost wish it had burst so I didn't feel as bad, because it cost me a lot of money still, no matter what. But it's no different. So again, think of it as like an appendix and something that you're born with and you're supposed to have. But if you're unfortunately you suffer from something where you have to lose it, you lose it. You know what I mean? Same with your spleen and some of these other things. You know what I mean? My life will forever be different. That's okay, because now I'm better, and that's important.
And I think that knowing all this transitions well into where I was going next, because bringing a far more healthier version of yourself into your next fight, because this will be your 14th fight in the UFC. There have been highs and lows, but it's been a real good run into year 8 now. You have lost 2 of your last 3 over the last 2 years. The UFC has been adding a lot more younger but more affordable talent. Does part of you feel like this could be make or break, especially with Dana White admitting, you know, there's a plan to cut 60 fighters soon? Like, is there a thinking, like, I can't lose 3 out of 4 right now? Good thing I figured it out, because, you know, this is a tough time to be on a losing streak, and at least I'm going into this fight as healthy as I've ever been. But is there an added pressure with all those elements?
No, and I didn't even think about it until you said it, and I didn't even know that was a possibility, and I didn't even think about that, to be honest. But I mean, I've gotten some of the most wins in the division, and look, I'm not. If I'm cut, if I get cut, I get cut one day from the UFC. I don't want to, but I mean, this is not the only thing I'm going to do in my life, but it's what I'm applying all my time to. So I hope to show that in the fight, that a healthier and happier me, and really legitimately a healthier me just, you know, can perform better. I mean, I have no doubt I'll get my hand raised. You know, it's a whether or not how I'll get it raised at the fight. That, you know, it's just different. Things are a lot different now in my life, and I'm glad. I've, you know, most people be like, oh, Jessica is making an excuse for something. No, it's an explanation. None of you guys actually really know me. You know what I mean? You're not my everyday life. You know, fans, you're just reading the things. Like, don't forget that. You don't know all the details. I don't tell you which sock I put on first. You know what I mean? I don't tell you all the intimate details, and there's things that are missing, and sometimes I blurt them out, and you hear some of the important things. But, you know, like, by nature, I'm still a person, and I'm excited to showcase myself. And that's why I didn't really want to do interviews. I don't really want to have to explain myself to anybody. I'm just sick of it. Nobody's being nice. Everybody's just being negative. And I know how to channel the best fighter in me, and that's by being selfish.
And that's an excellent point too, because you see, especially like in NBA right now, a player like Kyrie Irving, a lot of people are annoyed with him missing games for his personal reasons and whatnot. But the idea of that fans and media, we don't fully understand what a fighter goes through and what it takes mentally to get through camps, get through a career. So when you're mentioning people being negative, like, some fans will go, oh, well, just don't read Instagram, or don't, you know, read the press, don't read the news. But explain from the point of view of a fighter, like, you know, why is that necessarily not an easy thing to do? Why is it not just easy to turn off the world? Why is it hard to
avoid? It is at times, but you have to be okay with, you know, FOMO. You know what I mean? I'm not going to know what other people are saying, and then that's okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with posting the post. You know, I feel bad at times for my sponsors. Excuse me. I've been chugging water, so I'm burping. Um, you know, I feel bad for my sponsors and stuff like that, but that's also why some of the people I work with, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I shouldn't be the best person for you for sponsor, because I don't really care how many likes I get on IG, because the work will be there. And I got caught up in that mess there for a while. And I think we all kind of do. And I think quarantine reminded me of what's important, and that's your self-reflection, that's your health, and your, like how you'll provide for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, and like these things have become a little bit more real for me in this time. And again, my health being the biggest thing, that is the most important. I'm fortunate to do the job that I do, and I'm going to do it the best of my abilities. And I'm glad I'm given another chance at doing anything with it. And I mean, there's been a lot of time for me to reflect. It's been a lot of downtime, in that way. And I know that, again, coming up on my 14th UFC fight, you know what I mean? I would love to make it a total of 20. 20 is a good number. And, I don't foresee myself going anywhere. And the best way to do that is go out and perform, get my job done, come home, get back to work, and keep on that, track.
Joanne Calderwood took a massive risk in taking her fight with Jennifer Maia, despite being in line for a title fight. The risk didn't pay off. She lost to Maia. Jennifer instead got the title shot. What did you think of that decision? Because you, as much as anyone, know how hard those opportunities at a title fight are. What did you think when she took that risk and didn't just wait?
That's her problem, and I get that, like, some of that's, but she had made the comment whenever I had missed weight. She was like, people are over here, needing money and needing fights. Well, if you need money and you need fights, like, listen, I can make money doing whatever I want. Fighting, if I was doing it just for the money, are you kidding me? I make way more money on doing many other things in my life than I do just fighting. Right. So that's the reason I didn't get in the octagon. I only got in the octagon once. You know what I mean? So I don't do it for the money. No, I don't do it. I do it to better my people's life, the people I love around me's life, my coaches and those guys, because it reflects positively to them. And because I enjoy it. I enjoy what I do. You know what I mean? And I want to do it the way I want to do it. So, yeah. I don't really I think that's her problem. Like, that's her outlook on the way that she thinks of things. And again, don't let this be any more than it needs to be. And I think that, if that's what gets her into the cage and makes her feel fierce, then feel the way she wants to feel. But it's not any sweat off my back. She can't, it doesn't really bother me what she thinks of me in that way.
You mentioned, like, no one was really willing to give advice, suggestions, stuff like that. Did you go to the UFC when you started having these issues, these weird things going on, the weight cut miss? Did you go to them and did they not say, oh, go to PI? Did they kind of throw up their hands? Were they just not helpful? Like, what was the situation when you went to them on this?
So I Dr. Davidson denied me, and that's the UFC doctor. That's not the UFC PI. He denied me on getting surgery, which would cost me $20,000. Wow. To get done. He denied me and said that it was non-UFC related. Wow. And that's neither here nor there. It was kind of heartbreaking to hear that, but Dana came back, and we haven't spoke since, but he said that he would take care of me financially for it. You have to be compensated, but I'm sure it'll be happening soon. I just wanted to worry about the fight and getting my health together. Yeah. But yeah, that cost me $20,000. Not to mention the $50,000+ I got from both fights missing weight. But I had went to the PI, and me and Clint were kind of stumped on some of the things, because I would have a lot of up and down days, which is what gallstones do. Originally, when your gallbladder is going down, you could have a gallstone, so I could have inflammation times where I would be passing gallstones, and I would know it, and I would get infections. And I've struggled with other stomach infections before in my life, so I'm surprised we didn't look as deep. There's only one specific scan where they have to inject you with radioactive stuff to find out if your gallbladder is fully dead. It's an extremely crazy test. It takes about 2 hours, but it costs a lot of money, and it's the only one to find out when your gallbladder has been dead. Yeah. So when I went to the PI, we would struggle, but I would tell him, I'm like, I just feel like I have gut, like, or water in my stomach. And it's crazy because like I look at pictures of my return to 25, like how good I looked in all of them through Caitlin, and then I saw my gut change and my body change. I should have looked at that so different than, you know, being, you know, an artist and, you know, making sure you get your lines straight and stuff like that. But I physically saw my body change, like physically. And it wasn't I tried to do this cut with Cynthia that I wanted to call the fight at one point. I wanted to be like, I'm good. I don't want to fight.
Wow. So, I mean, and this,
I did. I mean, like it was a.
It seems like a tough spot in that, like, so, you know, so they haven't reimbursed you for that yet, and like I get their reasoning on why it's not UFC related, but you should take care of your talent nonetheless if you want them to get back in the cage fight. But do you have to kind of like go up to him, Dana? You know, I need the money, like that. That doesn't seem like the right situation for a professional athlete. How do you take care of that situation?
You know, it kind of sucks because like I'm a proud woman. Like when it boils down to it, when the UFC, if I am not a UFC fighter, I'm still Jessica I, and I'm still gonna take care of myself. I'm still gonna do my means necessary, and I'm a proud woman, and I want my dad raised me to be that way. So financially, I will always find means to take care of myself and make sure that I look out for me. And that's again why I said that I've realized, I think even after this one, I was told no on the original surgery offer, that I felt like, dang, like I really don't have anybody who has my back. So I really have to have my back, and by all means necessary, that could change some things. And again, winning down to doing interviews, who I wanted to like talk to, who I wanted to be face to face with anymore. Like we live in such a time now since it's quarantine, and still, you know, this time, I don't have to look at anybody I don't like. Yeah. You know what I mean? If I don't want to, and if I don't want to be treated a certain way, I don't have to go anywhere outside by people who only treat me kind, because we're social distancing, and you know, social media doesn't run my life anymore. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe when you go through something traumatizing like that, and not really knowing what's wrong with you, that you really find that sense of self awareness. And when it all boils down to it, like my relationship with me has to be the best, and the best things will happen in life.
All right, so one last question on the fight itself and stuff like that. Joanne's striking has been constantly improving, part of her game over her UFC run, her career. However, Jennifer Maia had a bunch of success on the feet before getting her eventual submission win on her, be it in that fight or watching from afar. Or just what you've seen in preparing for her. Have you seen areas you feel you can exploit her on the feet when fight night comes around?
I have a lot of them, and I'm not going to tell you any, but yeah.
Damn!
There's a lot. I know. But you got to think she's probably going to be super scared of my wrestling, so she might not kick. It'd be dumb if she doesn't kick, because then that just gives me all the reason to punch her. So let your mind run wild with style techniques here.